Hi, I'm Tracy Marshall. Welcome to my video called The First Time I Ever Wore Pantyhose to School. Now before I start talking about what I did the first time I ever wore pantyhose to school, this is a continuation of my series, my history of wearing pantyhose and cross-dressing. And I thought I'd pretty much told all of the stories that I had to tell in that series, but I kind of thought of another good one that I kind of, just forgotten about. Well, not forgotten about, but just, I don't know, overlooked it. And I'm going to tell that story. It's about the first time I ever wore pantyhose to school. And by the way, I'm taking a vacation day today. This is Monday, March 2nd, 2026. And this is only the second vacation day that I've used this year. And sometimes if I can, I like to take them on a Monday, because every Sunday is my day off. And if I take my vacation day on a Monday, it gives me 2 days off back to back. So that's why I'm taking it today, the vacation day today. And I've still got 24 more left in this year. But the video is called The First Time I Ever Wore Pantyhose to School. And I'm filming this video in the woods behind where I live. And it's raining and it's muddy. And the reason I'm doing this is to give you guys a bit of a bonus. I'm going to be walking in the mud and the slop in my pantyhose. So I'm wearing pantyhose, coffee bean pantyhose. And I'm going to be walking through the mud and maybe get into some slop. Now I'm not going to get into this water or anything, but I'm going to walk through the mud, and I don't know if I should lose a shoe or something from the suction of the mud. I'll have to get that on camera. So you can see that I'm walking up into some mud and water right here. And it's actually a light rain coming down. Okay, so this is a continuation of my series, my history of wearing pantyhose and cross-dressing. And like I said in the past videos, once I graduated high school in '93, I decided that I was going to come down on these very trails and start wearing shorts and pantyhose openly, at least on these trails. And then later on I started full cross-dressing in 1996. I've been over all that already. But what I didn't tell you, and I don't know why I didn't mention it, but I actually started when I was in the 7th grade. I actually wore pantyhose under my jeans to school. And I don't know why I didn't talk about that before, but I just didn't. I guess I just didn't want to get into it. But I actually wore pantyhose under my jeans to school a few times, and it started in the 7th grade. And I want to talk about that first time today in this video. By the way, that's how it's going so far. I felt the mud tug on my shoe, so who knows. But yeah, I want to talk about this first time I wore pantyhose to school. It was in January or February of 1988. I'm not sure which. I'm inclined to believe it was February, but I'm not positive. You see, my mom was a nurse, and I talked about that in one of my previous videos. She was a nurse, and she wore pantyhose with her nurse's uniform, these white pantyhose. They were called nursemates. They were called nursemates, and she wore them with her uniform to work on her job as a nurse. And she would order them through this catalog that she got through the mail. She would order these catalogs. These catalogs would come to her through the mail, and she would order things out of them, like pantyhose, for instance. And she ordered this brand called Nursemates pantyhose. She'd order them, and then she'd receive several packages of them through the mail. And she was stocked up on them, well stocked up. And they were just support hose, white support hose with a reinforced toe. That's essentially what they were. And well, I used to sneak these things out and wear them. And You know, I actually did this back when I was a kid, real young, real young. And of course, I talked about, you know, the video where I went over to my cousin's house that time wearing my mom's suntan pantyhose and got busted and all that. So I was wearing pantyhose at a young age, but I never wore pantyhose to school up until the 7th grade. And this was in like January or February of 1988, I think. I'm leaning more toward February, but it could have been January. And so what I did, it was a Sunday, you know, and it was a real cold, cloudy day. It was January, February of 1988, and I can remember it was so cold I didn't even go outside. I just stayed in the house all day. But I had this idea of wearing white pantyhose under my jeans to school. And yeah, wearing white pantyhose under my jeans to school. And I was debating that day about whether or not to do it. You know, I thought, part of me said, yeah, you want to go ahead and do it, it'll be fun. Whoa, I'm sliding. By the way, tell me if you like the coffee bean pantyhose that I'm wearing. But I thought, part of me thought that, yeah, it'd be fun. You know, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and wear, you know, pantyhose, my mom's pantyhose to school. Because they did fit, they were queen size. And so, I thought, hey, let's go for it. But then another part of me said, no, you better not. You might get caught, you might get busted. And those kids in school would be death on a guy in pantyhose. So based on that, I decided maybe I shouldn't do it. But I was like back and forth all day. But by that night, I pretty well knew that I was going to do it. So I just got a pair of my mom's queen size nursemaid's white support hose, and I buried them in my underwear drawer. And when I got up the next morning, I know I put them on. Even though I really can't remember doing it, I know I did. Because my first memory of that day, that Monday morning going to school, wearing my mom's white nursemaid's support hose under my jeans, my first memory of that day was being on the school bus. Going to school. And I remember it was a clear day that day. It wasn't cloudy and overcast, but it was really cold. And I remember being on that school bus and feeling those pantyhose on under my jeans and thinking, oh my God, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm wearing pantyhose to school under my jeans. I'd never done that before. Yes, I'd worn them at home, but never wore them to school under my jeans. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. I was like, if these kids on this bus found out about it, well, they'd be death on a guy in pantyhose. They'd be like the end of me. And so, yeah. You know, and I was going to school like that.